Okay, it's noon 30 on Thursday, and welcome to Progressive Soup. And quick shout out to good friend of Progressive Soup, Jason Bartlett, who's been on the show 2-3 times over the years. And Jason's big issue when he was in the State House was electrifying the railway from Danbury to Norwalk. And why would that make a difference? Well, you have to make a change in Norwalk. You have to change trains because the rail line from Bethel to Norwalk is diesel. Diesel engines are not allowed into Grand Central Station for obvious reasons. So by electrifying the railway from Danbury to Norwalk, trains can continue on without changing, and you could turn what is now a 2-hour ride one way from Bethel, for instance, Danbury and Bethel, into Grand Central Station. You could turn that into a much quicker ride if you have electric rails. And there's a cost behind it, but if you think about the fact that what your time is worth per hour, and to lose an hour a day, or maybe an hour a day twice, getting to and from work in Manhattan, that's a lot of money lost. So the cost of doing that electric rail, I think, would be greatly balanced off by having that ability to make it to Manhattan in an hour, or shortly, or slightly more than an hour. Because the railroad over in Brewster North, which is a direct line in Manhattan, is about an hour. So same distance, about an hour, because it's electrified and you don't have to make any changes. We have a good friend of the show, Raghib Allie-Brennan, back on with us from Wednesday night, and he's going to talk about some of the issues that matter to him most going forward. And these are things for folks to think about that are considering running for office in 2018, because now is the time to consider that and begin planning. Raghib?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think transportation was a very interesting issue that I tried to tackle on the campaign trail in 2016, and I think just in that imagine if we did have electrified rail coming from Danbury, Bethel, straight into Manhattan. I think more people would be living in the area. I mean, I know we do have an influx of people, and we are growing in Bethel, but it would be just so much more easier, because I know I drive just to Brewster just to make it more simpler, and I always view the Bethel trip as much longer than an hour or so anyway. But I think when we were talking on the other show before about people running for office, I think those are great places to start. Do you care more about the environment or transportation? Are there committees in your town or on your board that that you can get elected to? Those are places to start off, especially with Board of Education. Do you care about education? Maybe that's a place to start. Some smaller board where you can kind of grow your brain capacity on the issue and start from there. I don't think you need to just run for Congress or run for Senate or run for state rep just yet. I think you find that footing and what's your issue and what's your stronghold, and you move from there. So
it's a building process.
Yes, and it's learning. It's a learning process,
Hey, we're all going to live to be 100, hopefully. So certainly if it takes you a few years to get from point A to point B, and a few more years to get from point B to point C, with the educational learning along the way, you certainly will be much more prepared to make each step in that transition.
Yeah. And it's not only beneficial to you and you learning and being able to debate better, or it's beneficial to the constituents that they have someone knowledgeable in the seat or voting on these issues on their behalf. So I think it's important that people know these things instead of just jumping in and going for the big ticket item.
Point well made. I mean, it's more about knowledge and about facts than it is about rhetoric. Rhetoric is, as we've learned, is pretty much a waste of time. Because you're like a parrot, ba 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 ba, rather than a thinking human being. Not that parrots don't think. No disrespect toward parrots intended. But we as human beings have the opportunity to think, digest, and to move forward with the knowledge that we've learned along the way. Continue.
Yeah. So I mean, but some of the issues that I was passionate about and what got me involved was like climate change, and sad to see that after the president was inaugurated, that climate change, LGBT issues, and civil rights issues were all removed from the website, everything that I care about, taken out and, just washed away. So, those were things that, why I got involved in politics, and I wanted to learn. It was more about me learning more about the issue and seeing how I can affect change in that way, rather than, all right, how can I put my agenda on the plate for everyone, and how can I move that? So that's why I got involved in Bethel, and I was put up to run for the Inland Wetlands Commission, which deals with the environment. So, if you look at my life and my political career, it does have a narrative. There is energy and environment all the way throughout, and that's what keeps me interested. I won't be doing it if it wasn't something I loved and really wanted to make change about. So, I think speaking again to the last show, it's more about finding about what you care about and pushing that issue and pushing your voice as far as you can with it. So,
without progressivism, will there be any progress?
Yeah.
And are there people out there, and I think there are some, and we know that there are some who want to move us backwards in time to a time when they perceive America as having been better. Maybe it's something like women not being able to vote, or maybe it's something like human beings being enslaved. I'm not quite sure what they mean by when America was great, but I think America right now is greater.
Yeah.
At this moment in time, we're a greater country than we've ever been. We address people's issues, and I don't want to go back. I don't want to take that progress and move it backwards. Take us forward.
Well, so, even to speak to that, I think people would be surprised to know that, I wasn't a big fan of Obama back in 2008, 2009, because at the time I was just reading the news with headlines and what was Fox News putting out there, or what was just, the headlines, not really digesting news and reading more. And so I kind of changed the way I was thinking, and I said, why don't I read an article or digest it more instead of just, reading the bullet points. So that changed my way of thinking. I realized that our president, previous President Obama was great, and that he was leading on the strong issues, and that Republicans were just very good at messaging, and they were capturing the people that weren't really paying attention or didn't have the capacity or time to pay attention. So, and that's where in my thinking and learning, when I worked in Congress, I kind of developed this devil's advocate thinking, where you tell me one thing, I'm just going to say the other thing just to hear the counterpoint, or just to listen to both sides and see what the truth is in the middle. And that's how I deal with everything now, because, and especially today with fake news, you don't know what you're reading or what you're getting. So it's kind of scary, and I know some people don't care. They just read a Facebook headline and that's their argument. If I want to argue something, I'm going to make sure I know all the points about it and make sure that I am well, versed on the topic. So I think that's kind of a scary thing we're dealing with right now in the country, and we're getting a lot of misinformation, and now we're dealing with the administration that might be wanting to just put up their own information out there now, even if it may not be the truth. So
shouting down a member of the media.
Yeah. Alternative truths is the new.
Yeah. Shouting down a member of the media by the President of the United States and refusing to answer a question from somebody other than the media members who kowtow to him.
Yeah.
And messaging, one person's messaging is another person's yada yada. Is another person's that's I'm at a loss for words. But at any rate, so take us into the future. Take us a little further into the future for the folks that are thinking about running for office. When should they start, and what additional steps should they take in their preparation for either running for office or assisting someone else who's running for office?
Well, I think in going into the future, you have to go in the past and look back at maybe my election and what could I have done differently. And with that, I came into the race at a very quick pace and just got thrown into it. I was called up and I was asked if I would be willing to come back and to run for office, and I decided that within a couple days, and I left DC within 2 weeks, and I came back into a potential primary, and I had to qualify for the Citizens Election Program, which is a great thing that the state does. If you, on a state representative side, if you raise $5,000 and 150 of those contributions come from people who would live in the towns you'd represent, the state gives you a $28,000 grant. So you don't need to constantly fundraise throughout your campaign. You can focus on the issues and focus on the doors. So I had a potential primary, and that's because I didn't have a real lock on the caucus. And if I had come in earlier and kind of knew the field maybe a year prior, I could have figured that out and gotten that better. So I think it's about laying your roots. You have to get involved in the DTC or the RTC, whichever party you're with, and you have to show up and you have to care. They want to know that you have to pay your dues, and that's the thing. I had to pay my dues.
Show up for meetings.
Yeah, it's not just we don't trust you. It's do you show up? Do you participate? Are you always there, or is it just a fun thing that you do on the weekend? And whenever you feel like coming, you help out. Are you really a part of the member of the team and really wanting to make change? And so you slowly build that, and you build your relationships, and from that you can kind of build your brand. Because in the smaller elections, it's hard to have name recognition unless your parents built the town, or you had family who have been around politics. I mean, I'm Raghib Allie-Brennan. I'm there's
just a guy.
Yeah, yes. Although my name is unique, I didn't really have an Ollie or a Brennan, grounding in the towns. So no one knew who I was. I kind of came from left field. So you have to face those realities, and it's not so easy. But that's what I realized, and what I could have done different. I think I just a year prior would have figured this all out. I would have gotten my campaign finance under lock in a shorter amount of time. It kind of took me most of the spring and early summer to get everything finalized, because you realize people are very non-committal. As much as you tell your friends, hey, I gave you that form, did you fill it out? You have to be like, here, Dave, here's the form, fill it out right now, give me the $5 right now, and because I was giving them envelopes with stamps on it. I'm like, here you go. There's no excuse. Put it in the mail. They wouldn't put it in the mail. So
and you
have
lost
to
the stamp.
Yeah. So it's driving up to people's house. Hey, I'm by your house. Do you have that form? It's things you don't want to do, but you have to be aggressive, and you have to do that.
Salesmanship 101.
Yes.
You get them to make a decision while you've got them in front of you.
Yes.
When you've got them face to face. Now is the time for them to give you the $5 or whatever they want to give. And $5 from a lot of people adds up to the very small amount of money that you need in order to qualify for state assistance with your financing. And that money doesn't come from taxpayers, does it?
No, it comes from vacant property from around the state. So they put that into a big pot, and it keeps the rich out of the field. That it's an even playing field. I mean, you can still opt out and raise your own money, but these small races don't really need $100,000 invested in the race. I mean, good for you if you want to.
$30,000 will buy you an awful lot of advertising on radio.
Yeah.
It'll buy your volunteers
Mailers.
a lot of pizzas.
Yes.
And so these are the kind of things that these grassroots kinds of things that make this thing work properly. And as you say, there's no wealthy money coming in because people cannot give you more than $100. And $100 is not going to buy you much in the way of they're not going to buy your vote or your vote on an issue with $100. So there you go. You had a very interesting primary with Tom Burke. Tell us about that, and speak to the good and the bad of primaries.
Well, I mean, so that was interesting because we both, I think no one expected either of us to be running, and we didn't even know each other were running, and we kind of got involved in this. And for Thomas, he had the issue that he was registered as a Republican up until a few days before he announced he was running. He switched to the Democratic Party. Okay. And the thing with Tom is, which I guess, I was more of the insider, seen as the insider, because I had worked in DC, and when I graduated college, I moved back to town and I got involved in the town committee. I took the time to meet these people, and I took the time to help Matt Knickerbocker, our first selectman, win his re-election campaign. So, it was a pays-doing thing. They trusted me, they knew who I am, they know that I was serious. And for most people, Tom, he was this new guy that came out of left field, and he had the Republican stain on him that kind of people were a little nervous about, and that was his downfall. And it was just, I had to realize. I mean, yeah, but to Tom's credit, we ran a great campaign against each other, and we did keep it clean. And he's a great guy, and I know he has a full plate too. I don't know how he does it. He's working a lot of veterans issues, and I know he goes to the Capitol, and he argues for those issues, and he's also down in New Haven at Yale Divinity School. So
both of you have had a lot. Both of you brought a lot of good things to the plate for the primary. Now, generically, the idea of a primary, there's obviously some good and some bad to primaries. What are the good and the bad things about primaries?
Well, the bad thing is if you're one of those people that are getting primaried. I mean, but
all right, fair enough.
Well, the thing was, we were successful in preventing a primary. He eventually withdrew.
Okay.
But I mean, the good thing is that he can you have more ideas within the same space of thinking, that we all kind of come from the same party, and we think progressively, and there's things we want to change. Maybe he's a little more progressive than I am. Maybe I'm a little more in the center. And maybe he can push me one way. If maybe I can push him another way. So you kind of come out of it also practicing. You practice on another person. You kind of get your footing. You get voted on.
So it benefited both of you in the sense of that dialogue. And it gives the voters also a chance to get to know both of you a little bit better, and know where you stood on the issues, and know what issues you wanted the voters
to think about. For branding too. I mean, like, you're putting your name out there. People are hearing in town, oh, these two young guys are going at it. What are they about? So they want to learn more about you, and you're getting more articles about you and more Facebook. So that was, I guess, the plus side. But it was also the experience. You get to see, and I think you agree that primaries are a good thing. I think to a certain extent. I understand. I'm still kind of, I guess, I come from the insider thinking of just. I know that's such a bad way to brand myself, but I don't think I'm an insider. I think I just
nothing wrong with being honest.
I think I've dealt with the party. I was there from the beginning. I put in the time. I was the hard worker. I think it's kind of like, not that they owe me anything, but I think that they take me serious. That although you want to change things, that you're not just jumping in and how can you trust someone?
Good point,
and these are the people that have been here. The foundation. They've been running the show. They've been here before you. So there's respect that comes from both ends.
Good point, and I appreciate your honesty. You make a very good point about that, and it kind of tilts my thinking a little bit, and gives me a little something more to think about in the sense of not just primaries, but in the sense of getting involved in the political party and coming in gradually, and not just, as you say, not just showing up once in a while and expecting full party membership without coming to all the meetings, expressing yourself, and being fully involved. So. Point well taken.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're seeing in the town committees right now, that there's a lot of people that want to join them because they're charged up from what happened, and they're ready to do some action. But that's what we've been saying is, you don't immediately need to be on the town committee. You can be, attend the meetings, you can help out, you can show that you actually care and want to be on it, because membership isn't a light thing. When we have votes,
some responsibility involved,
when we have votes, we need people that are at the meetings and showing up to be part of those votes, to have a quorum. And when you make the roster bigger, it affects that voting. So people just want to know that you're serious. And I think especially with people like young people, like I said, I think I agree that my generation is a little non-committal, that we say we'll show up, and when it comes Monday and I'm calling you, where are you? Are you coming to door knock with me? Oh, something happened, something came up. I understand that. So,
and I've learned a lot from. I belong to a group that's adopted a Syrian family here, and brought them here into the Danbury area, and attending their meetings, I've learned a lot about Robert's Rules of Orders and quorums and things like that, and this is the structure of how a meeting works efficiently. And even when we get together on Saturday morning at Panera Bread for our Bernie Sanders group, we go around the circle, and we actually did a show here. Henry's here in the studio with us. We actually go around the circle and give each person a chance to speak for 3, 4, 5 minutes, however long, a reasonable amount of time that they want to speak on whatever's on their mind. And after we've gone around the circle, then we're back and forth with cross-discussing but respectfully and with one person speaking at a time,
Yeah.
cross-discussing those issues and throwing the proverbial hot potato back and forth. Because we don't always agree on everything, do
Yeah.
we? So, and he's nodding his head no. Okay,
But I think those-
and he's right.
But I think those are good conversations to have, and I think we were talking a little bit earlier off camera that, I think at some point the Democrats, I know we're fighting out ideology right now. We're fighting out who should be leading the party and all those things. But at some point we need to, kind of figure it out, or even not figure it out. We can still disagree, but we need to be organized, and we need to remember that the most important thing that we can do right now is organize for 2017 and even further 2018 when we can potentially take back the Senate or the House. So it's important that we kind of get on the same page, and although we can still have arguments about Cory Booker and whether he was right to vote for the pharmaceuticals bill that he did or not,
Absolutely, yeah.
that we're remembering that we're all on the same page and that it's better for us to go together than to kind of hate everyone that we have a disagreement
And to put
with.
things in
Yeah.
balance. I mean, you can disagree with somebody vehemently on an issue like pharmaceuticals with Cory Booker. The same way that a lot of us were very opposed to President Obama's drone campaign, but
Or even Hillary and Bernie. I mean,
Yeah.
I went to the convention and I was so, I don't know, I mean, like, I understand these were all new people that were part of the system, and I was at the convention and I sat in the California delegation because I was there with some friends from California, and I mean, the Bernie people that were just so upset, and they were so just, I think it was similar to like the Tea Party kind of thinking that we're willing to burn this all to the ground rather than kind of progress and maybe support or see that they were shouting down Elizabeth Warren, and I'm like, this lady, they were talking about that Bernie was going after the banks before she was, and I was like, she's been involved in this fight for just as long, and I think those are frustrating things where it's kind of like, I think at some point we need to realize we are on the same page. Maybe we're not there as quick as other thinkers are, but these are the people that are changing the way the party's thinking, right? We're pushing them in that direction.
it's a good point. There's a lot of similarity structurally in the Sanders campaign and the Trump campaign. Of course, one of those campaigns was populated by good, decent, honest Americans,
Yes, yeah.
and the other one was populated by something a little different.
Yeah.
But there was that populism, that grassroots in both parts, and that's why many people are saying post-election that the best way to counter a conservative or a right-wing populist is with a liberal or a left-leaning populist, because it was it was an election year in which populism ruled.
But and what worries me though is that I think we're spreading further and further apart now if we engage in that we have two extremes. So how is a senator or a congressman or congresswoman supposed to represent their constituents when you've got half of them on this side of the issue and half of them on this side of the issue? I mean, it becomes this kind, unless your district is completely blue or completely red, but still now you have this thinking where it's, do or die for like certain kind of things. So
It just comes down. I think it just comes down to representatives, whether they be on a local level. And you mentioned 2017, of course. That's where municipal elections are in Connecticut in 2017.
And the governor's race,
And the governor's race. But a representative, no matter what level they're on, has to vote their hearts, has to vote their conscience, has to vote what they think is right. And if they have a part of their own constituency that disagrees with them, well, that's going to happen.
Yeah.
We're all members of the same family, but dad and mom sometimes don't get along, don't always agree on everything, and they're going to express themselves very clearly. But that doesn't change the fact that you're still part of a family, whether it be the family be a party or whether the family be America in general, and all of us together. We're going to have disagreements, but we have to find a way to work through those and compromise sometimes, and sometimes compromise loudly and vociferously, and have some serious disagreements, and maybe never settle things entirely, but go with what works for everybody.
And I think something that would be good for us to do is I think we're not listening. I think Democrats, that our problem was that we're not listening. We're aggressively trying to progress and move forward and change, and we have all these ideas, and Obama was very good socially on the issues, and but I think what we're doing is not listening. And I think when I was on the campaign trail although my district is split, and I, of course, want Republicans to know that just because I'm a Democrat doesn't mean I'm fully there on all the issues. I want to hear them too and know what their concerns are, and maybe there's places where we can work, but that should be everywhere. And I think I don't know if we know what Republicans see us as right now, or what those people in the states that Trump was able to convince them to win the Electoral College, what do they view the Democratic Party as? What do they think our priorities are? Why did we lose in those states? What was the message exactly? Was it just that the economy was something that Trump spoke to, and Hillary focused too much on negative campaigning and just focus on Trump? So I think right now we need to kind of take the time to sit back and maybe invite some people that are in the community, Republicans. What is your view of the Democratic Party? And that going forward with who we're going to pick to lead the DNC, because we have some options, but do we go in this progressively, Keith Ellison realm, or do we kind of pick someone that speaks to Middle America, or do we pick some establishment person? What is the right choice? And I don't think it should just dictate, because of the election, what we think it was, when maybe that's not the truth.
Well, my vote's with Keith Ellison, so let's, as it was with Howard Dean back in 2005, simply because Keith Ellison is going to do the 50-state strategy and challenge in every single state, every single district, every single town, the way that Howard Dean did, and how he gained governorships, the majority of governorships, the majority of...
But look at Nevada. I mean, Harry Reid built a great party there, and they were able to flip the whole system there. And they just focused, that was just a state party. And I think maybe that's Connecticut. Maybe we need to look at our infrastructure here in our state party, and what can we do to better...
Much to think about and much to talk about. We're coming down to the end of our half hour. But the challenge to you, the audience, is to, of course, continue to think, question, continue to discuss things, not just with folks you agree with. This has been Progressive Soup, David Stevenson, Raghib Allie-Brennan. Let the discussion continue. Good night.